For more than 2 weeks now, we have been witness to a very exciting period in world history, and especially in Asian history. Finally, the 70 years war on the Korean peninsula seemed to be finally coming to an end, as Chairman Kim Jong-un of North Korea and President Moon Jae-in of South Korea came together at Panmunjom and shook hands after the Korean leader Kim Jong-un crossed the inter-Korean line, and they had a talk with the two had a talk, Moon and Kim, in the historic summit. There were very exciting gestures of fraternity and friendship, exchange of athletes in the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, South Korea. The singing and dancing troupe, the cheerleader troupe of North Korea in South Korea, and vice versa. Everything looked good for the world and humanity. Suddenly, just a few days ago, North Korea warns the U.S. as it suspends its talks with South Korea over U.S. and South Korean drills. That, of course, is one issue, and we have the headline there. You can see this is from CNN. The earlier news item is from Global Times, from China. We try to balance all these news items we get from all these sources. And what did North Korea say? North Korea has threatened to cancel the planned summit between President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un, scheduled for June 12 in Singapore, saying the U.S. should carefully consider the fate of the upcoming meeting in view of what it calls provocative military disturbances with South Korea. North Korea's state news agency reported recently. Now, this was just one of the issues. The other issue, aside from the military drill, is a statement from John Bolton, the new Secretary of State, if I'm not mistaken, of Trump. We will review that. But anyway, before we go on, let's go back to history. Of course, the U.S. has been demanding that North Korea gives up its weapons of mass destruction, but let us look at Iraq 20 years ago. The U.S. said there are weapons of mass destruction there, but even earlier, Saddam Hussein had already said that he had given up all these weapons of mass destruction. 1,625 UN and U.S. inspectors spent 2 years searching 1,700 sites at a cost of more than $1 billion, and they never found anything. Yet, what happened to Saddam Hussein? The next image, I hope you will remember, those who are of my age, and those who are younger who were already grown up at that time, but he was hung by the Americans because he could not defend himself and his nation anymore. He really did give up his weapons of mass destruction, and that is his fate. The other country that also believed the West and gave up its nuclear and chemical weapons is Libya. Let us refresh our memory. Libya gives up nuclear and chemical weapons. And this was several decades back. What happened to Gaddafi after that? And he had no longer the nuclear and chemical weapons. Let us look at this gory picture. That is Gaddafi, murdered by goons of the French and NATO. That's an ugly picture, but I wanted to remind you that this is not lost on the North Korean leadership. Hindi po nakakalimutan ng North Korea ang mga nangyari sa mga leader na binitawan ng kanilang nuclear and chemical capabilities to defend their country. Even American magazines and American analysts, magazine like the Christian Science Monitor, uh, had this headline, "A troubling lesson from Libya. Don't give up your nukes." Just to refresh our memories, let's take a look at that. The Christian Science Monitor. This is in 2011, August 2011, the year that they started the color revolutions in the Arab Spring, so-called, in the Middle East, and they created trouble in Egypt to remove Mubarak. They then launched this campaign to remove Gaddafi. And so we see the deathly image of Gaddafi after giving up his weapons for defending his country. Despite the fact that North Korea had made all the promises, had given all the signs, showed that they had closed down their nuclear testing sites, and North Korea's Kim promised to open dismantling of nuclear sites to the outside world, welcoming everybody to take a look as they dismantled, as this headline from the Miami Herald, is this the Miami Herald? Shows. North Korea's Kim promised to open dismantling of nuclear sites to the outside world. But what is the response from America? John Bolton, U.S. using Libya model for North Korean negotiation. This was a real shock, I think, to those who understood what the Libyan model means. At now, nakita natin yung Libyan model, yung nangyari kay Gaddafi. Nag-negotiate sila, they encourage Gaddafi to give up his weapons. Ano nangyari kay Gaddafi after some time passed? He was murdered. They attacked Libya, and he could not defend himself anymore. Can we show that John Bolton image? Just to, John Bolton, if you can remove the John Bolton, U.S. using Libya model for North Korea. So, galing sa highest state official of Trump. So, North Korea warns U.S. as it suspends South Korean talks over the military drills, and this statement by John Bolton. So, now, of course, President Trump has been trumpeting his success with the negotiations with North Korea, and he has been praised by the American press and been given the accolades, and said that he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Then suddenly this attempted sabotage of the peace talks between North and South Korea and North Korea and President Trump. Well, President Trump has had to contradict his National Security Advisor, John Bolton. And this is now the raging discussion in the United States. And this is from CNN that was featured on YouTube. No, the next one. Trump contradicts his National Security Advisor, there it is, on the North Korean policy. Can you imagine national policy jumping from one position to another, one statement to the other, and the American presidency contradicting his own National Security Advisor, whom he had just recently appointed and whom everybody was and is a warmonger. Yung si John Bolton po, warmonger. Ibig sabihin po noon, parang nagtitinda po doon sa palengke, yung fishmonger, yung nagtitinda ng isda. Siya naman gera ang tinitinda niya. So this, the lesson here is the U.S. President does not really have all the power he needs to run his country. He was forced to appoint this warmonger to replace a more moderate Tillerson, State Secretary Tillerson, and National Security Advisor at that time, Well, John Bolton was a recognized warmonger. He was forced to appoint John Bolton. And as I said before, I was just waiting for an attempted sabotage of these peace talks for the Korean Peninsula. And finally, we got it. And so I bring to your attention this book, The American Deep State. Wall Street, Big Oil, and the Attack on U.S. Democracy. If you remember the assassination of President Kennedy, that was the deep state. Because President Kennedy was trying to withdraw from the Vietnam War, which the American deep state totally rejected because it was big money for the defense industry, for Wall Street, for big business, and they could not allow a mere president in the White House to divert their plans for more profits, for more war booty, and that continues today. Now we are waiting for Trump to try to salvage the situation, and the North Korean leadership has demanded, in exchange for any de-nuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and its giving up of its nuclear weapons, assurances that North Korea will never be attacked, the withdrawal of American troops from South Korea and from the region, from Japan especially, because that is aimed also at North Korea. And I think the Philippine government should have more active participation in trying to help Asia be rid of the American presence and its warmongering elements in our midst. So we hope for the best in the Korean Peninsula, and we hope for the peace talks between North and South Korea to be rescheduled, and that there is no disruption of the Kim and Trump talks. With that, I bid you farewell for this week, and next week we'll have analysis and discussion of other issues.